Hey, it's Rory with searchandchow.com, and it's 2019 and I'm checking out my first 2019 smartphone, but it's probably the least 2019 smartphone there is because it's the Razer Phone 2 and it's technically a flagship from 2018. But I'm still psyched to check this phone out, so let's get into it. So I'm not someone who was super into the idea of a gaming smartphone, but then I saw the Asus ROG phone and that sort of just like blew my mind. I was like, wow, battery, performance, awesome speakers, awesome screen, awesome build, and accessories. Okay, there is some potential here. So forgive me if I compare this smartphone to the Asus ROG phone, because in my mind that is the gaming smartphone to beat, even though the Razer phone is technically the OG smartphone. So this is the Razer Phone 2, and it's the first Razer Phone to officially launch here in Malaysia. And as you can tell, it's not a very 2018 or 2019 styled smartphone because it has big bezels, it has a 16:9 aspect ratio display, and you know, it's kind of blocky. But there are some stuff that I do like and of course dislike about it, so let's get into it. We'll start with the things that I like. Number one, performance. So this phone is kitted out. It has a Snapdragon 845 processor inside, made it to 8 gigs of RAM, which is awesome. Yes, I know the 845 processor is like a 2018 processor. It's not quite the Snapdragon 855, but that is still a very capable processor. Made it to 8 gigs of RAM. You can expect this smartphone to fly. Probably the weakest point of this device in terms of performance is the storage. It's only 64 gigabytes. I would have loved to see 128 like the Asus ROG phone, but we're not getting that. We're only getting 64 gigabytes. The next thing I really like about this is surprisingly the screen. Now, I can't remember the last time I've used a 16:9 smartphone screen, so this is kind of like a throwback moment for me. I completely forgot how absolutely wide this aspect ratio is, but this is a very nice display. It's a 5.7-inch Quad HD panel that has a 120 Hz refresh rate. So it's kind of hard for me to tell you what that feels like or what that looks like, and I'm sure you've heard that from so many YouTubers or video makers already, but it is just unreal. It's so smooth. If you've ever used like a 120 Hz or a 240 Hz monitor, that's the kind of vibe you're getting with this. Swiping, moving around the screen, navigating the UI, it is just buttery. It's like, it makes it feel like this smartphone is faster than it actually is, and that is a great thing. So I can't wait to sort of game on this device because I can already imagine like the aiming and stuff. It's gonna be like awesome. But with this 16:9 aspect ratio display, you also notice that it comes with huge bezels. There's a huge forehead and a huge chin, but this forehead and chin is there for a reason, because in them is a pair of really awesome front-facing stereo speakers. They sound awesome, like easily top 3, top 5 smartphone speakers I've ever heard, and that is saying something, especially since the first and only time I've ever heard this smartphone speakers is in the super noisy, loud event space. So the fact that I could hear and I could sort of like listen to the music properly is a true testament to how awesome these speakers are. So I don't know, compared to a 2018 or 2019 smartphone, like for example this Honor View 20, where it's all just no bezels, this one is sort of a device to adjust to in terms of the bezels, but the trade-off is you get really awesome speakers. Most of the smartphones I've used these days with the really slim bezels, they have terrible speakers and they're so nasty, and this is just so refreshing. And honestly, I like that there is this option here, because now you get to choose. If you don't mind not having slim bezels, you can go for something like this with the really big front-facing speakers. So you don't have to be locked into this idea of only having slim bezels and giving up speakers because everybody's doing that. You have the option now to do this. That being said, there is a small caveat here, because the Asus ROG phone, which I mentioned earlier, that also has a really awesome pair of stereo speakers, and that has a modern 18:9 aspect ratio with fairly slim bezels. So I don't know, was this the only way they could do it, or was this sort of like a cost-saving measure, dare I say? I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. I can't immediately tell whether it's better than the ROG phone in terms of speaker quality, because this is the really noisy event. I haven't spent a lot of time with the ROG phone. So there's that. But if I do get the chance to test it out, you are going to hear my thoughts on that. And the next thing that I actually like about this smartphone is the operating system, the Android skin. So while on the ROG phone you get a heavily skinned version of Android, which is sort of like actually a skin version of the Zen UI skin to make it more gamer, this one you have a very stock-like experience without too many gamer aesthetics, which is something that I really like. So it's a pretty much stock Android but with Razer sort of black and green color scheme, and it's subtle but it's also clean, and I think it works for an Android smartphone. Maybe because I'm a stock Android slut, but your mileage may vary, so take that into consideration. And now for the final thing that I like, which is this. Boom! Chroma RGB lighting. So I love this. It's subtle, but it's also sort of like and you can turn it off, which is something that I really like. But this isn't just here for aesthetics, because it also works as sort of like your notification LED. So you can have it blink a certain color depending on the kind of notification you get. So I think it's like green for calls or text or something like that. And you can configure that in their chroma setting, which I think is like a nice way to integrate RGB lighting into what is otherwise just a notification LED. Finally, we have the last thing that I really like about this smartphone, and it is the IP67 water resistance, which I think makes this the first sort of gaming smartphone with water resistance, and that is very refreshing and actually quite astounding considering you have these huge speaker grills to water seal. So the fact that they've managed to give it IP67, which is 1 meter in depth for up to 30 minutes in clear water, that's pretty awesome for a gaming smartphone with such huge holes and a pair of front-facing stereo speakers. Good job, Razer. But now it is time for me to tell you things that I don't like about this smartphone, about the Razer Phone 2. And we will start with the ergonomics, because this phone is so uncomfortable to hold in your hand. I mean, look at it. Number one, it's wide. It's a 16:9 aspect ratio, so it's really wide, and it's not tapered or curved at the back. It's actually, I mean, look at it. It's a block. It's just like a slab. It's industrial, I guess, but the glass panel doesn't really give it that industrial feel, sort of like the metal one did with the original Razer phone. This one's just really uncomfortable. It digs into your palm when you hold it like a normal smartphone. Like, look at that. I already have grooves in my palm even though I've just been holding it. And that's not something I'm into, because I hold my phone pretty much all day, every day. The upside is it is relatively comfortable in sort of landscape mode, which is, I guess, good for a gaming smartphone because there's a lot of real estate for you to hang on to. You're not just like accidentally touching the screen with all the slim bezels and stuff. You have a lot of actual phone space to get your paws around, which I guess is a good thing, but it is a huge smartphone. So if you have small hands, or if you really like ergonomics like I do, then this phone's body isn't gonna cut it for you. Next, we have another design feature that I don't like, and it is the buttons. So the buttons themselves don't feel very clicky. They're actually kind of mushy, and one of the demo units actually already has a broken power button. I don't know how much abuse that phone saw, so you know, your mileage may vary, but this level of clickiness does not inspire confidence. And I also don't like the volume rocker buttons. They're small, and I guess it's because it's based off the Nextbit Robin, right? So you're gonna get these kind of buttons. But while they are in a good spot, it's actually really not a satisfying click at all. And if you pick up the phone immediately and you, like, in a rush, you wanna find the power button to unlock your phone screen, it's gonna be really hard to find that power button because there's no sort of bump or ridges like a lot of modern smartphones do these days, so it's kind of hard to pick that up. But there is a reason why the power button is flat. It's because the fingerprint scanner is actually in the home button at the side of the phone, which is another thing that I don't like about it, because when you put it at the side, typically you can only unlock it with one finger, which is your thumb on your right hand. If you want to use your index finger, you're gonna have to reach around really uncomfortably, and I've done this whole thing with Sony smartphones and I'm not a fan of it. Give me one at the back or one in front, or I don't know, Face ID, and I would prefer that to this. Next, there is the fact that there is no headphone jack on the Razer Phone 2. Why? You have all this space. Why is there no headphone jack? Okay, you have a nice 4000 mAh battery. That is great. I love that because you can game for long periods of time. But guess what other phone has a 4000 mAh battery and a headphone jack? The Asus ROG Phone. And honestly, that's not much thicker than this. So what happened here? Why couldn't you put a headphone jack in? Okay, maybe I shouldn't be so upset about this because most flagships these days don't have headphone jacks. But this is a gaming smartphone. People are going to be having their headphones in with Discord or whatever voice chat app that they have these days. They're going to want to use that headphone jack. And the fact that now they have to use a dongle to plug into their only USB-C port so they can't charge the phone as well is just counterintuitive to this whole idea of a gaming smartphone that you can play video games on. And finally, we have the camera. Now, I didn't expect this camera to be any good because the ROG Phone's camera isn't very good either, but I know a lot of you will pick this up, or a lot of you who will buy this phone won't just buy it for the gaming features because you're going to need to use it as a smartphone, and because of that you're going to probably want to use the camera. So the camera, in my brief time testing it, isn't particularly impressive. Reviews say that it is better than the previous generation. I honestly can't vouch for that, but if you're expecting something like a Note 9 or even a OnePlus 6T performance for this camera, you might want to look for another smartphone. That being said, I will still hold my final judgment for when I get the chance to review this smartphone, so stay tuned for that. And that about sums up my first impressions with the Razer Phone 2. The only thing you need to know now is the price. So this smartphone will be priced at 3,449 ringgit, and it will go on sale in Malaysia from the 15th of January onwards. And it's available at all major retail outlets and with Maxis and U-Mobile, which are telco offerings. So you have quite a lot of flexibility when you want to buy this smartphone. But 3,449 ringgit means that this smartphone is a little bit cheaper than the Asus ROG Phone's base model, which is priced at 3,499 ringgit. So you save 50 bucks if you go for this smartphone. But the question is, would you? Because if you think about it, the ROG Phone, which base model actually has a speed-binned Snapdragon 845 processor, 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage. That's double what you're getting with the Razer Phone. And you're also getting a clip-on cooler fan and a much cooler unboxing experience. So I don't know, is it worth saving 50 bucks just to get this smartphone for an arguably less gaming-centric smartphone? I mean, if you're talking about gaming-centric features, the ROG Phone has that in spades. It has freaking air triggers at the top so that you can use them like shoulder buttons, and you don't get that with this. This is just a smartphone that's slightly uncomfortable to hold. It has a really good screen, yes. It has really awesome front-facing stereo speakers, yes. And it has top-of-the-line specs, yes. But that small storage and, I don't know, the lack of a headphone jack and air triggers and any really gaming specific features kind of turns it off for me. So I personally would just get the 50 bucks extra and go for the ROG Phone at this point. But then again, this is still my first impressions, so I won't really make that my concrete judgment just yet. I will wait for a full review of both smartphones, maybe a comparison. Would you like to see that? Let me know in the comments below, and then I will pass my judgment. But right now, honestly, I don't see a reason why you'd get this smartphone over the ROG Phone unless all you want is that sort of stock-like Android experience. I mean, the ROG Phone even has an entire accessories ecosystem, that Game Vice pad, that thing that looks like a 3DS, you know. But that's enough of me ranting. I know people get annoyed when I rant, but you know, it's because I love these products and I want to see good products, so that's what I get from this. But in any case, that's it. That's about it for me at this video. I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Leave them in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know below. And don't forget to like this video if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on that notification bell icon so that you'll know whenever we post a brand new video. Like us on Facebook too. Keep it locked to searchinsha.com for the latest news. And don't forget to check out our latest video right up here. And also our new show, the latest episode of our new show, where Ray brings you the latest tech news in case you missed it, right down here. And that's it for me at the launch of the Razer Phone 2 in Malaysia. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a nice day and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!